Hi friends! This is DaintyTank. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to Who is the Red Queen? This game just dropped. I have been stalking it, absolutely, unabashedly stalking it, for a good few weeks now. It's another one from our favorites at Studio Alien, who does a lot of amazing publishing. The developer for this is someone I haven't heard of before, For Nuki, who is, I think, so far doing a good job with a lot of warnings up front. And that's where I want to say, warnings! Trigger warnings up front. This does have very dark themes, very bloody themes, very gory themes. It deals with death, suicide, dismemberment, and others. It's a horror game, and it is also LGBT, according to the Steam page. Again, this just dropped. I have not played this. This is a blind playthrough. Like all of my stuff, this is a blind playthrough, unless I tell you I've played it, which I think only applies to Life is Strange. So, with everything else, let's jump into this game. I have no idea how it's going to be. Actually, do need to move that around. Alright, let's get into it. Music down the rabbit hole. Falling, falling, falling. I was falling down this rabbit hole with no start nor end. I was falling. If the title didn't give it away, this is Alice in Wonderland themed. And I love the music. This is great. Hi, who are you? History, high text box, auto, quick save. Save. Option. Oh, this is so cool. Where had I gone? Where could I go? As if I were forgetting something very important, I fell down, down, down through a sparkling, shiny darkness. Too bright to be dark, too dark to be bright. I must have been chasing after someone. After something. Like a girl who, curiously, was piqued by a rabbit with a watch. I was falling, 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 down, 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 and again, and again, again. This endless well seemed to lead everywhere yet nowhere at once. Either the hole expanded very deep, or I descended very slowly. Was I truly even going downward? Perhaps this was all a dream, a fever dream. Or in more words, a fantasy that would be as soon forgotten as it was I had. Okay. Wait, hold on. What? I held just one certainty. I was Alice. Alice was me. Now then, just how long was I supposed to keep falling? The air brushed past my fingers, my cloak ruffling upward. A quiet humming breeze caressed my cheek. As if I could hear someone's voice, a pleasant voice, a woman's voice. I strained my ears for whispers in the wind. Alice, what a time for madness, without a bit of fear or vertigo, should you not have focused on topics more pressing? Like the darkness or the light, or how you couldn't awaken from this dream. But even now, you are just falling, falling, falling. What does it matter? Oh, this is a red dripping arrow? Oh, attention to detail. Thank you for that. With a thump thump, I come upon soft grass, and the fall was over. Not a bit hurt. I forced myself to my feet. Up above my head, the firmament whence I fell had not a tear in its blue canvas. Down about my eyes, only unfamiliar surrounded me. I started on an exploratory stroll. Oh! Soon I stumbled upon a rabbit who looked like a girl, or a girl who looked like a rabbit. Fair? Have you met Trixie? There's quite a few of those. Oh, you really don't want to meet Parsnip, actually. Parsnip would be a little bit more of a deal breaker there. Pokesetter, if you haven't seen Parsnip and Trixie Glimmers of Smith universe, you should see that. Perhaps the correct answer was that she was both a girl and a rabbit. Not lingering much longer on the species of the rabbit before me, I called out to her. Excuse me? Where was this place? Why was I here? How could I leave to return home? I thought of what to ask her, but she recognized me as soon as I spoke, so my questions were lost in my mouth unasked. Alice? The white rabbit. I love your sweater vest there. It's really cute. White rabbit? Have you seen Her Majesty? Do you know where she's gone? Where she could go? Her Majesty, the Red Queen. She must be taking a vacation of sorts. I only wish that she could have left this little rabbit a note. I'm a bit of a panic, you see. The land can't run without its queen. Please let me know if you catch sight of her. I nodded. Yes. Who this Red Queen was, I had not a clue, but a tingling deja vu. Still, my acceptance of the request let the white rabbit breathe out a sigh of relief. Just as I prepared to pose my own questions, she straightened her back in surprise. I'm afraid I have to go. I'm going to be late to a very important date. Okay, the white rabbit dashed off. ... I want to ask some questions. Never mind that. Follow her, Alice! Although I chased after her, with only a moment's pause, when I turned the corner, she was nowhere to be seen. I found myself in the garden, meticulously kept. I was about to say, that's a gorgeous garden. Tailing the rabbit. I barely dashed a few paces. I hadn't realized such a place was so close by. Rather, I hadn't realized I'd run this far. A conjuncture tickled my brain that this world I fell into was a magical place. One with paths that pointed to one way but twisted to another. With what an explanation! Much more far-fetched than me just not knowing where I was running. It took a moment to catch my breath. Glancing around, I began my walk about the garden. Flowers and greenery all around, but not a person in sight. This place was beautiful. I wanted to meet the person who made it. Not quite a gardening person myself, I still appreciated a pretty place and felt a swelling excitement to explore what sights could be seen. A reminder of reality then dampened my joyful curiosity. I wanted some answers, a way out and back home. As pleasant as dreams were, one had to be able to awaken from them before they turned into nightmares. Whether this was a dream or reality had still yet to be seen. Step, step. I walked around. Hop, hop. I peered over the bushes. Soon enough, I discovered the heart of the garden, where one might sit for tea. Oh! I spotted a white-haired girl in the garden. I mean, yes, that's apparently where white-haired girls just stick, according to anime. It's just these gorgeous gardens. To amend my previous thoughts, wouldn't it be right to say that I rather also appreciated a pretty person? I mean, that's fair. Frivolous thoughts flew from my mind as our eyes met. Her gaze seemed to beckon me over. Beckon. So over I went to speak with her. The White Queen. Are you enjoying the garden? The garden is beautiful. The gardener will be happy to hear that from you. However, if you have come here now, you should be searching for something. We should first introduce ourselves. I am the White Queen. Just like with the rabbit, for reasons unclear to me, I already knew who she was. Here, that should be as good as a name. I was about to say, it did pop up. Is that you actually knowing? Or was that just storytelling? Like, if it is Alice's actual perception, already knowing the name of the White Rabbit and the White Queen. Interesting, Alice. Your Majesty, my name is Alice. Don't stand on ceremony, Alice. I am not someone you need to speak with particularly respectfully. Welcome to my garden in Wonderland. Wonderland. I tasted the word on my tongue. I can't remember why or how I'm here. Not this garden, but Wonderland. I was falling, and I couldn't remember why I was falling. I was simply falling, until I fell no more. I'm sure I've forgotten something very important. You needn't force yourself to remember. Some things are better left forgotten. Perhaps it was fated for you to come here. Perhaps something is missing that you must find. Oh, this world must appear like a place of dreams. You should find the Red Queen. The missing queen, whom the White Rabbit mentioned, was the Red Queen. The way for the White Queen to continue, she hesitated to speak of the Red Queen, as if the elusive royal would appear like a ghost behind her as she spoke. I tried to imagine what sort of person this Red Queen was. She will let you return to your own reality. When you meet her, you should be able to find out all of the answers you are seeking for. As for where she is, this is for you to discover. Ooh. Do you dislike her? Silence. That's a difficult question, Alice. That's a difficult question. There's complications there. So she's like that. I'll let you judge the Red Queen. You might learn something new about yourself. Shall I head off to find her now? Why not stay for some tea? Of course I'd love to, but it's not quite afternoon tea time yet. According to what watch you were following? A later time then. Certainly to have tea outside of tea time wouldn't do. I won't keep you for too much longer, Alice. I'm sure you will be able to find that person soon enough. Until later. Later. I waved goodbye to the White Queen. Bye! And departed from her garden. Just like this game, I too am gay. Glancing back, I saw her gaze linger upon me. Ooh. Search with a C. I stepped onto a twisting path in the forest. I don't know which way to go to find the elusive Red Queen. Turning left and right. To find a queen, I thought to seek a castle. However, the rabbit said that the queen was missing, so unless the rabbit had also forgotten something very important, the queen shouldn't have been in the castle. The Red Queen, she seemed like a troubling person. The way the White Queen's face froze, tongue stuttering along at the topic of the Red Queen, made me wonder, was the latter queen a tyrant or a fool? The tutor at home liked to talk about kingship of that sort. To me, either or neither were fine. After all, who were the peasantry to affect the mood of a high queen? I hummed and walked along with a skip in my step. Just as I reached a rhythm in my stride, I kicked a little something, or animal, that threw me off beat. I slowed to applaud. My mood a note dampened. Soon I heard a chatter of a girl a few trees away. Seeing not much civilization here in the forest, I followed the voice of a girl. What did you kick? Wait, hold on. Go back. Although she was chatting, I heard her voice alone. Oh. Hi, I assume you're the Mad Hatter. You were cute, though. I passed by a few bushes and soon enough found a tea party in the middle of nowhere. At a table set before a tree sat the girl. Hello there, Alice. What did you come here for? Her chatter ceased. Her mismatched eyes pierced through me in its place. There's no room here at the table, so don't take a seat. No room! No room! She moved the puppets on her hand, Sleepy Mouse, and a Mad Hare. Looking right to left, I could barely see the end of the table set for tea. One person in such a large space. Conversely, she almost seemed lonely. There's plenty of room, Hatter. To make my point, I took a seat in a large armchair across from the Hatter. The chair stunk of flowers, as if to clear away the shadow of an unpleasant previous sitter. I sank back into it comfortably. Then I kept sinking, before I jolted back up with a shallow gasp. 3's plenty a crowd. That's rude of you to say, Alice. Not very civil of you to sit down without being invited either. But whatever, let's just treat you as an extra guest for tomorrow. Not today? Aren't they the same? Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Every day is never a day different. But since I'd rather not deal with it today, we will just treat it as if it were for tomorrow. Dormouse and March don't mind. You mentioned 3, but I only see 1. She wiggled the puppets on her hands as if to explain everything. 1 was herself. 2 was the first puppet. 3 was the second puppet. Puppets. I'm scared Alice might be blind. That's a side effect of being Alice. Don't worry. It's just a side effect of being Alice. The pitch of her voice warped. It's just a side effect of being Alice. Don't mind their comments. She is Dormouse, and he March here. She paused, as if waiting for me to greet the animal puppets. I waited. She waited. The silence of the conversation bored me, so I relented to the Mad Hatter's wordless request. I was their guest for tomorrow, so a polite guest I decided to be. Well, hello there. I was scared she was deaf as well. Hello there, Alice! Between the puppets, I much preferred the Dormouse. If a puppet could fall asleep, she looked as if she was about to do so. I feel some pity, as that meant that March Hare would speak more. Where are we talking about? Where are we talking about before? A riddle? Maybe it was this one. Why is the raven like a writing desk? Do you have an answer to that riddle? You're no fun, Alice. Relax and have some wine. There is no wine. You were invited for tea tomorrow, Alice. It's the obligation of the host to offer a guest a drink at tea time. Maybe she was an alcoholic? That's a jump in judgment there. Hatter, I can't in good faith call this time of day tea time, nor can I call it alcohol tea. Details. Add some butter. It'll be tea time eventually, so it's tea time now. We're having tea, so I might as well have a tea time, don't you think? What did you come here for anyways? Although I couldn't quite say that I had come to this tea party with a goal in mind, I figured I might as well tell her. I'm searching for the Red Queen. Her brow contorted as she took a sip of tea. Puppet sat down for just that moment. Dumping the tea away and rinsing the cup, she poured herself another drink. Oh, her. The Hatter placed her lips to the rim of a teacup and stared at me. A minute passed, all 60 seconds consisting of staring, before she ducked down under the table, as if to find an item, and popped back up again. Uh-huh. Welcome back. Your pants are lovely. Stay and chat for a moment. I'll help you with a little something regarding Her Majesty. The Hatter poured me a cup of tea and slid over a plate of sandwiches. The plate hurtled toward me, forcing me to hurriedly grab it to list the sandwiches spilled all over my lap. Luckily, the cup of tea arrived much more calmly. I took a taste, finding Earl Grey. I like Earl Grey, it's good. I like specifically Lady Grey. That's actually a really good offshoot. It's not nearly as rough and has a smoother taste. But I'm also a big fan of Irish breakfast teas. So, Ooh, Scottish breakfast tea. Okay. Anyways, don't mind me. Talking about teas. Is it tomorrow already? At the very least, it wasn't time for afternoon tea. If I'd known I would have had tea now, I would have stayed a little longer to have some with the White Queen as well. It is not that people couldn't have tea outside of afternoon tea, but it was also the principle of things. That's fair, but do you have a watch? Are you checking the time? Do you understand where you are in time? Why is there knives sticking out of that cake? That's terrifying. Just realized there's also fish in that vase. Ah. If people drink tea any time of day, they would drink it all day. I mean, I drink it all day, but that's just me. I sip some more, enjoying the citrusy flavor of this black tea. Today is tomorrow. For yesterday, don't you think? Unless she doesn't think. That would have been rude of you to ask. She's just normal. Orthogonal? Certainly sitting up quite straight. But regarding the Red Queen, do you have any news about her? I'd say I have some business with her instead. Something to do with meat and flesh and all the other red things that a Red Queen might have to do with. Aren't you a hatter? Yes. Not a butcher. Unless your meat is made of hat. While talking about all things unappetizing, I took a bite of sandwich filled with an ambiguous color. A milky sweetness melted in my mouth. I tasted some sort of fruit inside. Maybe it was a mango or kiwi or strawberry. Those are vastly different things. Satisfied with the pleasant sweetness, I took another sip of tea. This tea and these sandwiches are delicious. Thank you, Alice. You made them? Compliments to you then. Wow, such flattery. Since you've put me in a good mood, I guess we could go ahead with Her Majesty's matter. In fact, she's been sitting here with us the whole time. I sat up with even straighter in confusion. Glancing around, I saw no queens in sight, not a human nor animal besides the two of us here. The Hatter rolled a chair over and pulled a cloth off from over the chair's holdings. Oh, beware, there's probably something very damaging after this. Again, trigger warnings. This is your point. It's been tamed up to now. Wanting to make sure. Beware of the warnings. If you need anything, there's a link to the Trevor Project down below if you ever have any struggles from watching this. Ta-da! Alice? Whoa. Nausea ran up my spine. On the chair sat a chunk of meat dressed up in a tattered human clothes. Still dripping red, the flesh seemed to ripple, undulating. Was it rotting, or was it still alive? My head spun as I squinted at the thing. This thing resembled a human torso, with half a neck, chopped off limbs, dolled up with what could have been fancy clothes. This was surely human flesh. I sensed an odd familiarity in the torso, but also felt as if I was looking at it from an incorrect angle. This was the torso of a regal woman. This was raw human flesh. This is the Red Queen? An inappropriate question flitted across my mind. Could we consider it as sitting if it didn't have legs? I suppose yes. It's really, is your butt legs question from Hank Green there. I think you can look that one up. I'm not going to talk about it right now. I thought you said you weren't a butcher, Hatter. We definitely couldn't consider this a hat. Having just eaten the strawberry taste in my mouth, turned to a meaty texture like raw pork. Ugh. I could almost taste sweet, rotten flat. I swallowed. I wonder if the Hatter wanted to make me sick. Yes, I'm a Hatter. I closed my eyes and rubbed the bridge of my nose. Too distracted by the surprise, the feeling in my fingers almost felt like wet ground meat, even though I was sure that my digits were still attached to my palm. The image lingered uncomfortably behind my eyelids, not with disgust, but with another inexplicable emotion. Negative one for sure. I looked at the torso again. It seemed so still. I saw exposed bone and a shattered trachea. The cut must have been made wholly clean, made with a blade sharpened not quite enough, yet also dulled not quite enough. Yes, this was the Red Queen. I knew why I knew, but a voice in the back of my head told me that this was the Red Queen. A part of the Red Queen. I'm afraid Her Majesty can't speak right now. The Hatter stirred her tea and propped a bite-sized sandwich into her mouth, munching happily. Don't look like that, Alice. The Hatter didn't dismember Her Majesty. Yes, Hatter is innocent. Since only the Hatter spoke up in defense of herself, mate, there was the Dormouse and the March Hare. You should pay attention to them as well. I wasn't particularly inclined to believe her, but whether or not she did kill the Red Queen, the end result sat before me. What should I do now? I murmured my uncertainty at this dead end aloud. What do you mean? All you have to do is find all of the other pieces. If you have anything you need Her Majesty for, all you need to do is put her back together. Have you forgotten, Alice? That sounded mad. So mad I wanted to laugh. This is Wonderland, after all. All I need to do was find the pieces? That was right, Alice. That was all you needed to do. It would either be terribly simple or terribly hard. I hope that no one had fed the Red Queen to the pigs or minced her up for the patty. Regardless, all I needed was the head and the torso if I wanted to talk to her, to ask her about the secrets to returning home. May I take the body with me? Alice, you were civilized, girl. Did you really want to lug around a piece of meat like you were some meat seller? Selling to the cannibals? No. That won't be fair, don't you think? Once you find most of her parts, let's just say the limbs, I'll give you a special present and help you out again. She patted a box off to the side of the table. The box was just big enough for a cake. For a cat, or a cake, or maybe something like a hat. Of course, don't peek or try to find out what the present is. It wouldn't be a surprise like that, and I'll be very, very upset if you cheat. With that smile on her face, I couldn't see her upset. Only muddled sincerity came through her voice. Now then, I've got to grab something off the stove before it burns. What? The Hatter got up from her seat and walked away. Here I was alone with the Red Queen's flesh. It was moving all 4 limbs and a head. It was missing all 4, not moving. It was missing all 4 limbs and a head. So, to make her whole, I need to find 5 parts. I hoped my search would be easy. I'm gonna save. I'm not gonna sneak around and peek. Listen to the Hatter. Shook my head. Instead of antagonizing the Hatter... Wait, did I miss something? See, the Hatter was nowhere in sight. I contemplated a decision regarding curious box on the table. No, we're gonna listen to the Hatter. I shook my head. Instead of antagonizing the Hatter needlessly, I decided to take another sip of tea. I would see what was inside the box eventually. The Hatter returned soon enough. In her hand was a hammer, a glowing bright with heat. She chucked it to the side with a thump and let the metal sizzle on the ground. What was the hammer for? Does a hammer need a reason to be? That's a good point. Anyways, go ahead and try and find some of the Red Queen's body. An arm, a head, or maybe 2. Just bring them back here for me to attach to this. She pointed to the torso. It'll still be tea time when you come back. Just count you as an extra guest for the next tomorrow as well. To be exact with time, now was not tea time. I suppose there's not much else to do here. Looked at my empty cup of Earl Grey and lifted myself up from the armchair. For what it was worth, I quite enjoyed the odd hour of tea, minus the torso undulating beside you. Okay. Shaking my legs just to make sure they hadn't fallen asleep, I started to move. Until later. Auf Wiedersehen. She leaned back into her chair and made a lazy wave my way. Bye. Somehow she looked lonely. Oh. I returned to another forced path. Ooh. You should probably go back and get whatever you kicked earlier. Walking forward and forward. After moving for a while, I realized I had no idea where I was going. In simpler words, I was lost. I walked around in a few circles before looking upward. Oh, hi. Above, I saw a cat. A cat who resembled a girl, or a girl who resembled a cat, leisurely stood on the tall branch of a tree. Unlike its white rabbit, this cat, the Cheshire Cat, couldn't help but wonder if she was actually neither a cat nor a girl, and was just pretending to be either. I met her cat eyes nodding in silent greeting. Her grin stretched across her face as she stared right back. Sharp teeth filled her mouth and claws adorned her hands. This was probably a cat. Cheshire. Hi. The flame that her tail flickered, and she hopped down to meet me closer. I don't suppose you tell me which way I should go? Posed a silly question that I expected no answer for. After all, I was asking a cat for directions. Depends on where you want to go. To my surprise, I received the response. To find the Red Queen. Ah, the crazy one. Are you sure you'd prefer not to go with the nice one? The one I'm searching for is the Red Queen. Alright, the Mad Queen. Then again, we're all mad around here. That is except for Her Majesty, the White Queen. She's too sad to be mad. If you're looking for the Red Queen, up, up, down, down, left, right might help. Up, down, down, left, right, A, B, start. Are you Konami coding me? I see you, Cheshire Cat. Self-awareness, Alice. Self-awareness. The Cheshire Cat vanished into thin air. Soon enough, she reappeared. Just go to the White Queen instead. Maybe you'll find something on the way. She started to fade away again before popping back. I forgot to ask, how's the Hatter doing? She seems to be fine. Still tea time over there. It's always tea time with that one. A third time she disappeared, leaving a grin lingering in the air. Before that too vanished, this was a grin without a cat, instead of a cat without a grin. Third time was a charm. The cat did not return. I can't say I've seen a cat quite like that before. Then again, Cheshire wasn't really a cat. Saving. Walking a few tree lengths more, I mulled over an odd advice she gave me. Go up, up, down, down, left, right. I tried to remember just what the Cheshire Cat had said, speaking the pattern of directions aloud to a beat. Up, up, down, down, left, right. Felt as if I had missed a few items, but that was all that the cat had given. A, B, start. I backtracked to the position where I met the cat and followed the recommended directions. Soon enough, I found myself at a crossroad. Saw no limbs nor heads in sight. Left was labeled right, right was labeled left. With wrongly written signboards, I chose at random on where to go next. Every few meters, I found a new signboard with my own quaintly marked arrow. Whether or not they led to the right place was another issue. I slowed my pace to read the signs and follow them along. Today is a rainy day. Didn't know much. Didn't know which genius thought to put a forecast on a wooden sign on the side of a road, but I followed the direction to go right regardless. The sky had not a drop of rain in sight. Warning, cliff ahead. As it happened, neither there was a cliff ahead. Watch out for dragons. I looked for dragons, but the dragons did not arrive. Shameful. I was about to say, if you get promised dragons, you should get dragons. At some point, the text on the signs turned to insults. Fool. You don't even know who you are. Stop following these signs. How many of these will you read? I walked and walked and walked. At the end of the final sign in the chain, I reached a clearing in the forest where I spotted the white rabbit talking with a limb. Your Majesty's left arm, please. I blinked. Then I blinked again, rubbing my eyes. I saw the same image. Yeah, that's the left. The white rabbit seemed just about to prostrate herself to a living, moving arm. The arm, despite being an arm, had taken the higher position. The ground here is dirty. You mustn't crawl around. Shall I take you back to the palace, or would you prefer to go to the garden, or the courtroom? In fact, do you happen to know where Her Majesty is? The arm smacked the rabbit. I do. Although I silently observed, the arm noticed me and began to crawl over, one handful of grass at a time. Okay. It moved like a snake, like a worm, like a piece of flesh and bone that shouldn't have been able to move. Its wriggling struggle sent a shiver up my spine. Didn't know if I should pick it up or kick it away. I did neither, as I reached my feet. The arm proceeded to climb up my leg, up my cloak, clinging like some sort of dirty parasite, moving its slow way up until I pushed past my building disgust to hold it in my hand instead. The flesh felt cold in my palm. I sensed no heartbeat at the wrist. Whew. Alice. Whew, sorry about that as well. Alice, Her Majesty's arm seems to have taken a liking to you. If you find Her Majesty, please return the limb to her and tell her that her rabbit did her best. I pray she hasn't met any trouble. A limb coming off isn't it an everyday occurrence? She made quite the understatement. Yes, of course. How did you know it was the Red Queen's arm? I would recognize Her Majesty's limbs anywhere. Would you now? Tell me more. Do you admire her that much? Yes, of course. I respect Her Majesty very much. She united Wonderland into this kingdom and kept peace with a watchful gaze on the criminal populace. She is a decisive ruler and holds an agreeable worldview. This should be her divine right to rule Wonderland. I've heard a cat call her mad. Dangerous expression flashed through the white rabbit's eyes for barely a second. The Cheshire Cat is a known problem element here. Problem element? If Her Majesty is mad, then such madness is in essence brilliance. Although I may not always be fated to be a favored courtier, to be an aide to her is my greatest honor. I cannot be White Rabbit without Her Majesty. Yes, that should be how I view Her Majesty. I gave the rabbit's impromptu speech a short round of applause. Good job, good job. Balancing the detached arm in the crook of my elbow. The rabbit looked flustered. She must also like you very much. All rulers had their dissidents and supporters. A certain man once said that ruler was better feared than loved if she could not be both. Despite all of the White Rabbit said, I knew a little more about the Red Queen. The Red Queen is the ruler of this land. What's your job, White Rabbit? Yes, she is the highest ruler of the land, of Wonderland. I deal with a little bit of everything, administrative matters, legal matters, and the personal matters of important people. Since we've met a few times, I could say that I'm important, couldn't I? That's right, Alice. To my tepid jest, I received a response that made me pause. The White Rabbit took out a watch and jumped in surprise upon looking at the time, quickly returning the watch to her pocket. Is it this time already? I'm afraid I must be off again. If that will be all. Thank you, Alice. Hurriedly bowing a few times, she dashed off back to work. Having obtained one limb, I searched around for another. Before I knew it, the day passed. I looked toward the sky where the sun had begun to set. Letting out a yawn, I realized I needed a place to sleep for the night. Okay. Beep. Not that there's much of a choice here. I thought back to the parties who had helped me onto my adventure to gather the Red Queen's dismembered parts. Surely I could find one of them. I could find the Hatter. Headed back to the Hatter's place. As before, I found her at the table full of tea stuffs. She nursed a cup of tea and waved at me upon spotting me. Just in time for tea, Alice. From the sky, tea time should have already passed. Perhaps it was more like supper time, so I only flashed her a smile without saying anything. I've returned with the limb. Congratulations. I handed her the Red Queen's limbs, which began to move upon entering the Hatter's hand. Holding it away from herself, the Hatter seemed to think of what to do with it next. She kicked a dog cage out from under a chair. Clinking the metal hatch open, she tossed the limb into it and quickly flicked the cage shut again. Sit down. It'd be poor host if I didn't let you sit. I plopped down in an armchair. This was my chair now. I glanced around and didn't see the two puppets that the Hatter wore on her hands earlier in the day. Where are your friends? I gestured with my hands. Friends. They've gone home for a bit. March lives all the way over in a house with ears. As for whose ears they were, I have no clue. Are you hungry for rodent, Alice? Rodent? You mean dormouse? No. If you say so, Alice. She poured a cup of tea and slid the tea cup and saucer over to me, nearly spilling it over my lap. Soon after came another plate. On the plate was steak and vegetables. I should hope this isn't rodent, is it? It's something else. I like the wink. The Hatter didn't continue, but glanced over at the Red Queen's flesh. My eyes followed the path of her gaze, not spotting any steak-sized slabs of meat sliced off from the torso or the queen. I let out a sigh. Taking a knife and fork, I cut the steak and moved a piece to my mouth. Tasted like beef. Compliments to the chef. Why, thank you. We ate together. For a Hatter, her table manners, with forks and knives, were impeccable. But each time I thought to compliment them, she went and said something odd again. So the whole thing with the Hatter is that Hatters actually had to deal with a lot of toxic chemicals that slowly deteriorated their mental capabilities, so they actually did go mad. So the Mad Hatter is based off of the fact that people who were Hatters eventually did have neurological issues from the chemicals they were handling to make the hats. So, just so you know, DaintyTank fact. You're welcome for that. Oh wait, for a Hatter she admit, yeah, she went and said something on again. The Hatter was a mystery to unravel. I don't have a place to stay for the night, so I wanted to ask if you could put me up with me for the night. I put up with you all the time. What difference does night make? Where I come from, people sleep at night. Sleep? You can sleep underneath the table, or spread a blanket on the ground, or just sleep on the armchair you're sitting in now. Isn't sleep just when you pretend to be dead like everyone else? God. Is that why you don't sleep? The Hatter had terrible bags under her eyes, as I doubted she slept too much. She could only have been sleeping too little. Look at the time. Is it really time to sleep? Napping at tea time will destroy your inner clock, don't you know? Morning, afternoon, evening, since it's all tea time, it's better not to sleep. I thought you didn't care about time. Time doesn't care about me. Oh. Are you perhaps afraid of sleeping? What do you think, Alice? She poured herself a drink from a bottle in her teacup. Oh. Getting yourself a nightcap in there. I turned to look at the bottle, which was in no way for tea. I couldn't read the garbled words scrawled across the label, so I couldn't help but ask. Is that actually alcohol? Tea. Isn't it alcohol? Tea. She drank her tea and I did mine. The conversation turned to silence. I shouldn't have pushed and upset my dear host. I wanted to pet her head and apologize, for she could drink or sleep as she wanted. As I reached out, the Hatter recoiled. Oh, that's an upset, pouty face. She pushed her chair back from the table, turning the chance to move away. Then she dipped underneath the tablecloth, rummaging with her stuff, with a rustling noise. When she plopped back out, she had a blanket, which she tossed my way. Didn't you want to pretend to be dead right now? Go play dead. Catching it in my arms, I smelled a sweet scent from the soft blanket. The sky was dark. I started to feel sleepy, hugging the blanket a little tighter. I had experienced a long day after all, so perhaps it was time to go to bed. Good night, Hatter. I wonder if she was mad. If she would respond, but she did. Good night, Alice. I leaned back comfortably in the armchair and began to sink. Sinking. Contrary to my earliest expectations, I didn't keep sinking forever. The moment I looked up at the sky, I found myself falling asleep. I found I couldn't fall asleep anymore. I didn't recognize the stars, the constellations that adorned the dark heavens. Tracing their infinite sparkles, I wondered who they stood for. I wanted to understand what was hidden past those mismatched eyes of the Hatter. While counting the stars, I eventually fell asleep. I think that's a good place to cut it for now. I hope you're enjoying this. Please let me know your thoughts below. I want to say this is a free game. You don't have to sit here and watch me play through all of it if you want to. I completely understand because it's a lot of reading. And I am dyslexic, so I will make things mixed up. But you can play this yourself, and you should play this yourself. You're allowed to. It's free. It's on Steam. It just released today. It's from our good friends over at Studio Alien, and a newcomer for Nuki, who is obviously doing very well with this visual novel. I love how dark it is. So warnings, it's dark. It's got a lot of things and warnings there. Please pay attention to the warnings, but it's free. You can play it yourself and download it on Steam. The link is down below. And with that, I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye!